Welcome back. Now, you may have seen Old Mutual trending post ex-user Sibatho Molefe posting her frustrations with the financial services provider's non-payment of her mother's pension dispute, or despite rather a court order. Now, social media rallied behind the user, with many users expressing challenges experienced with the group and allegiance. Some have called for policies with the company to be cancelled, while others advised to switch it to alternative providers. Undoubtedly a reputational blow, but Celiwe Ross, who's Director of Public Affairs at Old Mutual, joins us now to unpack. Celiwe, thank you for your time and a good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Noluthando. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for chatting to us. It has been quite, I think, past few days for Old Mutual. Let's just talk about what transpired over the weekend here, and of course what you can share with us, because I think what I have read to date, it's very clear that this issue is very sensitive.
It's sensitive and it's complex, and that's why it kind of finds itself where it does. And maybe let me start by unpacking some of the facts. You very correctly highlighted there are sensitivities here from a privacy perspective. We are duty bound as an insurer to protect not only the identity, but the details of our claimants. We cannot share those publicly. They haven't, and so we can't. I think it's important to also note that Sibabatho or Ms. Molefe is the daughter and not party to the arrangement herself. She is obviously helping out her parents, her mom specifically in this case, being vocal, trying to push things through, which as a daughter I can equally appreciate. But I think it's important to highlight that she's not actually a party to the discussions, not legally anyway. And so let's talk a little bit about the case itself. As you rightly said, it pertains to a pension fund, where we are essentially the middle person that is facilitating the receipt of those funds. And typically in South Africa, when you are retiring, the retirement funds are provided to an insurer. The insurer then applies the legally specified way of bringing that insurance policy to life. I'm simplifying the language here. So typically you can draw the first 1/3 in cash. The 2/3 are annuitized, and you earn them as an annuity. And there's particular regulations that govern how that gets done. More so, we also are subject to the Income Tax Act. We need to apply for tax directives, etc. Taxes calculated. So it's quite complex when you have to deal with a number of different regulations and legals. And there's also a matter pertaining to two parties that are involved here, and that also is governed by a separate regulation. But what I wanted to share maybe is some more specificities that we haven't hitherto shared, but I think I'm comfortable and more able to share details, because this is a sensitive case and it's a complex case. But in an attempt to help people understand, Noluthando, I can share at least the following. Firstly, it's important for us to protect privacy of all of the individuals involved, and I've shared that. But in an attempt to try and help people understand, I'm going to share the following. On the 10th of July in 2023, Old Mutual received a court order, and that was dated the 5th of May 2023. That court order did not give effect to anything. The terms of the court order were not to Old Mutual. We were not a party to that order at all. It was an order specifically made to these individuals. It wasn't specifically made to us or any of our funds. Moreover, we couldn't actually give effect to that court order for those reasons, along with other legislative reasons. And we disclosed those to the parties involved. And they were legally advised and then went on to get a new court order based on discussions that they'd had with ourselves and input. But when that court order was effected, it didn't necessarily meet a number of the other legislative requirements that we need, as I said, to comply to the Income Tax Act and the Pension Funds Act. That new court order was granted in December. We received it in February. As a result of its receipt in February, you can imagine from the family's perspective, feeling like we've rectified certain things we should be able to pay, and then being told, actually, there are things that aren't being met. Now, Old Mutual could contest it because there are several problematic legislative provisions in there, and we are not. Our intention, Noluthando, is to pay. Our intention has never not been to pay. We want to pay, and we will pay, Mrs. Molefe. We need to work through the details that I've just explained. I hope that's helpful.
It is helpful, and I think it does absolutely shed some light on the matter. And of course, having appreciation for these kinds of matters that are sensitive, but also, what it might mean for a daughter to want to be an activist on behalf of parents. But I'm also keen just to maybe also delve in a little bit deeper on some of the, continued responses that came out of Twitter. And I think, X at this point, which was then, a more backlash and I guess more complaints from individual users, a bit more difficult for you to address every single one of them individually. So I'm keen to also find out about your thoughts on that, and trying to remedy the situation from that perspective.
Thanks, Nothando. It's concerning. It's not pleasing to watch or see or hear, for sure, deeply concerning to us as Old Mutual to hear the experiences of some of our customers. It is not the standard that we hold ourselves to. And as we did state on our post as well on X, that we deeply regret and we deeply apologize to customers who have been dissatisfied with the service that they receive from us. However, Nothando, I do want to highlight, Old Mutual has 9 million customers in South Africa. And 9 out of 10 times, let's deal with maybe the most basic claim that we pay out, which is a funeral claim. At a time where something obviously unplanned and accidental happens, we need to show up for our customers in a meaningful way. 9 out of 10 times, a funeral claim from Old Mutual with valid documents is paid within 4 hours. Oftentimes, in less than 2 hours, we pay on a funeral claim 9 out of 10 times. What happens in the 1 out of 10 times? Either we don't have the right documentation for the claim, and that delays a claim. It doesn't mean a claim doesn't get paid out. Sometimes it's asking the customer to go back, get another document, etc. So it delays and not necessarily lead to non-payment. And there are some claims that aren't paid. What could be the reason for those? The primary reason is fraud. As insurers, we are subject to fraud where people either claim to be recipients or beneficiaries that they're not, where people fake death certificates and claim that there's been a death that has not been the case. And some cases that are more complicated are cases where a death has happened by unnatural means, where then the South African Police Service has to get involved. That also can make the process protracted. It does not mean that we will not pay. It means that we now have to adhere to other laws and other regulations and other entities that are not necessarily within Old Mutual's control. And I did want to state that it's not about us not wanting to pay and not being willing to pay. Last year, we paid 40 billion rands worth of claims to our customers. Every day at Old Mutual, we process 30 million rands worth of claims. Every day. We pay claims, we honor customer commitments. There are a few that have had negative experiences, and our hearts are deeply regretful for that. We don't want our customers to have negative experiences with us.
I'll also ask you, I think what stands out for me here is possibly that South African consumers are battling with the rights and obligations from, themselves and even from the likes of Old Mutual where these things are concerned. In my mind, if you're taking my money every month, if the premium is going off at my time of need, you're going to be there. But clearly something isn't quite landing the way that it should, that is contributing to this. And I think that speaks across the industry, not only to Old Mutual. I'm keen just to find out about this. Is this something that is being diagnosed within, Old Mutual? And how do we ensure that people are not convinced that because the premium has been going off or because the policy documents are with me, then I'm covered. And then in an event where something tragic does happen, they aren't covered, or, there is a protracted process that does delay a claim.
I agree with you. It's always people are at different levels of maturity, knowledge, access to information about financial products in and of themselves, and even more specifically with insurance products. And so the simple fact is I'm paying a premium, I've got my documents, what should I do? And that's understandable from a consumer perspective. It is imperative that people get financial advice through an accredited financial advisor. It's the best way to understand what is it that I'm buying into, what are my rights and obligations, what will I be entitled to and when, and then taking the decisions as a consumer that you need to. And of course, you're right, Nothando, it's top of mind for us to make sure that the South African consumer base is financially well. And we do that through financial education, particularly at the time when people are engaging us to make a big financial decision. That financial education is executed either by the financial advisor face-to-face, who is accredited with us and is an Old Mutual employee, or is done online through whatever shape or form that the consumer would like to consume it at the time that's convenient to them. But when you buy insurance products, you're buying a promise, you're buying to protect against something that may happen in future. And oftentimes there are mishaps along the way: death, divorce, change of family circumstances, change of health conditions. And what good quality financial advice will help you do is deal with those mishap events in your life that will not have an adverse effect at the time of claim. What do I mean? Important, for example, to keep your beneficiary details updated, particularly if you unfortunately get divorced or your spouse passes away. It's important for your insurer to know those details because at the time of claim, beneficiaries are really, really important. It's important to keep your health status and health conditions well disclosed because many people don't understand that at the time of claim, when you are discovered to have a new health condition, it can affect the claim depending on what it is and what was disclosed. And more importantly, keeping all your documents under check, whether it's IDs and all claim documents that you need to be able to produce at the time. And that includes death certificates and other very vital information that an insurer knows. Because as I explained, Nolthando, we are exposed to a lot of fraud. And we, as an industry and as a company, need to be able to protect the rest of the consumers who are doing the right thing. Otherwise, you do get a case of someone trying to claim money against a policy where the person hasn't even passed away.
Got you. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining us and also for clarifying this matter for us. That was Taliwe Ross. She's Director of Public Affairs at Old Mutual.